This is The Foundation, stories from people who build things, products, services, businesses, how they started, what they're doing now, and where they're going.
Good afternoon, Joe. How are you today?
Good afternoon, David. I'm well, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time, especially talking to a born and bred Western Pennsylvanian. I'm
Oh,
from the
nice.
from the Pittsburgh area, so hopefully our allegiances are
Absolutely.
respected.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been to Pittsburgh several times and it's a great city. It really is a great city and great people, actually. It has a more of a Midwest vibe than a Philly Northeast vibe, if you know what I mean.
Are you born and bred Eastern Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we're just outside of Philadelphia, so I've been in this town of Lansdale for 51 years. Went to school here, started my business here, so yeah, I don't travel far.
Well, thank you very much. It's a beautiful Indian summer autumn right now, I'm sure, in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely, yeah, it's great. It's great.
I wanted to start off again. The conversation is called The Foundation, which is my way of segueing to my first question to you. I'd like to find out what really the Village Handcrafted Carpentry Foundation is in your mind.
So I built a foundation. I guess first and foremost, I decided that I had this passion for woodworking when I was in, I guess, late middle school, kind of high school. And my father was an amateur woodworker as well. And we said, hey, why don't we build this shop? He had always had this intention to build a little wood shop in the backyard. So he saw my passion for it growing. I was obsessed with the New Yankee Workshop and This Old House on PBS back in the 80s. And that really inspired me. Norm Abram was, one of the early pioneers before, DIY and before, you know, um, cable TV networks and
Right.
HGTV and whatnot. So it inspired me, and then I had this passion to do it. So we started. I was building furniture, and I started building furniture for my first home and for my wife now, and little jewelry boxes and then kitchen tables. And then I thought, I grew up in the restaurant business with my family, and that was a chaotic business, very,
Sure.
very, 18 hours a day. And so woodworking was kind of an escape for me to go into that shop, especially like on a snowy day and just like, put on some music and then built some cool things. And then at one point, I just said to myself, I want to do this the rest of my life. I don't think I can work in those businesses any longer. And, 100 employees and all of these issues. And I'll tell you where that fast forwards to in a couple minutes. But so I gave it a shot. I filled out a piece of loose leaf back in 98, and you put your phone number and your name at the bottom and slice the little slivers and hang it up at the convenience store and at the gym and at the supermarket. It
Hmm.
was before the internet. So how did you get your name out? Street signs, pamphlets, and these little, tear offs. And, before you know it, I had a little bit of a backlog, and I didn't know what I was doing, man. I was like, I was just winging it. So I would take a lot of trim, so it would be like a lot of trim jobs, like
Sure.
crown molding, a mantle, little built-ins, and no furniture. And I was like, I really want to build furniture. Well, I quickly realized that building furniture one off that's a very small market. You have to be one of the best woodworkers in the country and a tenured woodworker that can build on spec for very high end affluent clients. And I just didn't understand that at that time. So I quickly evolved into cabinetry. And it was like, okay, build a vanity, build a wall unit. And that was in the days of the big screen TVs. Remember, we all had these gigantic
Oh
rear
my gosh.
project.
And they were deep, weren't they?
They're so deep, right? I built like so many of these 12-foot wall units, two side units, and a center unit that would hide the TV and a panel around it. These were, you can make some money doing this, right? The problem was I had a 20 by 20 shop. So these were 12 to
Ah,
14-foot wall units that didn't fit in my shop.
not
So
many
I
of them.
no. So I started spraying outside. I had a little spray gun, and I'd be spraying out in the sun, and bugs would be flying on my finish. So, you know, I quickly, during that time, I quickly realized like I'm going to need to get out of the backyard. Right. This is getting a little busier. I can't keep up. Found a guy that was looking to retire, started networking a bit. This is 2 years in, started networking. Found a guy, he said, "Hey, listen, I'm looking to retire. Buy my little shop, my tools. I'll come along and teach you the kitchen business." And the guy was really inspirational.
Your mentor, yes.
He really mentored me. And at the time, my father had passed. So he became like, it was almost like a surrogate father at the time. He was very similar in age to my dad. So it was a really
Hmm.
cool story. We became very close. We sat in an office. I moved into his office. It was a town about 20 miles away. And we sat about 4 feet from each other. That's how small this office was.
Okay.
So, and we really did, we formed a really nice bond, and he taught me the kitchen business. And he said, "Listen, Joe, cabinetry in this world, you're going to have to you're going to sell kitchens, and kitchens is vast, right?" So I started to really understand kitchen design. I brought in CAD. I brought in, it was a program called Cabinet Vision. He didn't want to run the computer. But he said, "Hey, my mind, you go out and sell this product. We can build it here." He had maybe 2 or 3 guys, about 5,000 square feet. So it was a big step for me.
Sure.
And he financed the little bit that I paid him, a couple $100,000. He financed it for me over 5 years, and he stayed with me for 7 or 8 years until he passed. And that led to my brother-in-law and sister and my wife. All we got so busy. I was growing. We were doing $1 million a year in sales, and I couldn't keep up. I was just fighting fires on all ends. They joined the business. The way it happened, it worked out pretty well. They joined the business, helped me scale the business. Over the next 20 years, we made another 2 moves to where we're at now. So we moved back to the town I'm in, Lansdale, which I've,
Hmm.
born and raised. And we have 75,000 square feet here now and 105 employees. And my partners are retiring this year. I'm buying them out. So the business is evolving. We're approaching $20 million in revenue. And, we're now selling cabinets nationwide. And my goal is to grow this, double it again if I can over the next 5 to 7, 10 years max. So I'm really passionate about woodworking. I love being able to get up from my desk here, walk on the factory floor, and see these amazing pieces of art these people are building. I mean, we have some of the best craftspeople in the country here working at Village, and we've established core values. So we're very intent on our core values. One behind me on the screen, challenge accepted. We build anything, right? As long as the client can pay for it, we will build it. So, and how we deliver on our expectations to our clients. We have very affluent clients, so they have high expectations. This product is not cheap. We're in the top end of the pricing spectrum in the nation. So because we have to hire very skilled people, we really can't compete with stock or semi-custom cabinetry. We call this bespoke cabinetry, right? This is
Sure.
made to order. It's long lead times. We're 16 to 20 weeks right now. We're 21 weeks. So it's not for everybody, but for the clients that we've, grown a very good base of business, they come back over and over and over.
That's a great story to tell, and I want to land a little bit on the notion of bespoke. And I do see on your website that you've got some brands, as you call them, Reserve,
Yep.
Canon to come in,
Yep.
bespoke.
Sure.
And I want to talk a little bit about the in your name, handcraft, and in the word craft. We live in a world in 2025 where maybe craft is something that everybody desires, but doesn't really understand or want to necessarily pay for. So tell me who your clientele is that is still desiring the handcrafted nature of what you do.
Okay. So our client tends to be, I would say, on the top 5% of the socioeconomic scale, a lot of one percenters, a lot of 1/10 of one percenters.
Single
Uh,
homeowners, right? You're not working with builder developers, right?
we are working with some builders that actually
Okay.
specialize in that $3 to $10 million home. Okay. So they might build 10 of those a year in our
Okay.
region. But most of our builder work is they are building on spec, or they're building for a homeowner who has purchased that lot and developing a home, and it's a 2-year project. Right. So we're doing all the millwork, well, not the millwork per se, as like we're not doing running trim and doors. We are doing wainscoting, ceiling, that type of thing, as well as the cabinetry in all of the rooms.
In all the rooms beyond kitchen, even though your mentor said kitchen is what everybody redoes, but
Absolutely. Yeah. We are the whole goal is to get the whole package, right? So that's why we have different lines. So like our reserve line is frameless cabinetry, which is much more popular on the West Coast. It's European full access cabinetry. Sell that in a lot of the ancillary rooms, the laundry room, the storage rooms. But our bespoke would be in the kitchen, the primary bath, and the main rooms.
sure, sure. How do you find your clients?
So I've been told by several of our competitors that we are a marketing company that disguises ourselves as cabinet makers. So, and that's a testament to my wife. So she's been here for 26 years, and she was not a marketing person. She was coding for Y2K back in '99 when they thought the world was going to
Right.
collapse. When
The whole world was going to crash. Right.
So she was doing real well. She had a great job programming zeros and ones, right? And so I said, "Hey, hun, I need to build a website." And she said, "I've heard about those, right? This is like at the time."
Back when they
So
were tables, pre-flash and everything.
yeah,
Right.
correct. Pre-flash, right? Yeah. So she built. So before that, she took a bunch of our images. I always spent a lot of money on photography, so I'd always have some guys come in and photograph our work. Well, back then you would put them on a DVD or a CD-ROM, put
Right.
your logo as a cover, and deliver them to builders, architects, and designers. I always knew that if I did one-off clients, Mrs. Jones's house, I'm only going to get one kitchen from her and maybe a referral or two. If I call on the designer or the builder or the architect, they're going to give me repeat business, right? So
Sure. The tip of the spear. Right. So,
correct. So I started networking heavily in NARI, that's the remodeling industry, National Association of Remodeling Industry, HBA, the Home Builders Association, ASID, the designer, that's interior designers, IFDA designers, IDS, all of these different groups. I would go out 3-4 nights a week. I'm still doing it 27 years later. I've got 3 events this week. So we go out, we meet and greet. Now I have 10 people on my design team, so we all take turns, but we're always out there in the marketplace trying to get to the designers, interior designers, the kitchen designers, and the builders and architects, because
mhm.
they are the tip of the spear. They're what we're finding today because of Instagram. And again, fast forward. So we built the websites. We have our social media is very strong. We have almost 75,000 followers. So
Congratulations.
thank you. So our follower base is a client may see our kitchens and say, hey, to their designer, oh, I love this village. I love their work. Can you call them? And that's oftentimes, or the designer calls us and say, hey, I have a client. They're interested in your product, in your service. Can we set up a meeting? So we have a 5,000 square foot experience center here in Lansdale. So we spent
I
over $1
did
million.
see that.
Yeah, in this space. So clients can come in uh, with their designer, with their builder, and really collaborate. But the real key is that everybody gets a tour on the factory floor, right? So when you come in, our goal is to get you on the floor to see these cabinets being made, to see the craftspeople that are finishing and cutting and assembling and radiusing and making molding. It's crazy. And back to that craft thing, David,
Mhm.
is that in 2025, people like their concept of anything being made for them is really few and far between. You
And
know,
yet they still like the idea and the word of craft and would like to be able to find a way to have that part of
correct.
their interior.
So if we can get them to see that this is truly made for them, right? And their name is written on the back of every cabinet, it really gives them a sense that, wow, this was made just for me. And they become very proud of it. And then we get a ton of referrals because of that, right? People are like, oh, I have a Village Kitchen. Now, locally in the Philadelphia region, we see in real estate ads, it says a Village Kitchen, right? So that means something, right? So it's a Village Kitchen with Sub-Zero and Wolf, right? So it's like if you can get that kind of branding, it's you're in the branding business.
Sure. Well, not only can you get that kind of branding when it's contracted from Village Handcrafted Cabinetry to just the Village, you've already won that game too, as far as brand equity, right?
Yeah, yeah, we're working hard at it. And again, I think I was telling you early, part of being, somebody that's passionate about the work, but passionate about growing a grade A company of people that love working here, right? Because now it's not just about me. It's like, how do I engage the team to kind of bleed the business, right? All the time, right? Like I do. It's like for me, it's my third child. I have two kids. This is my third child. And my kids always said, you put this child first, right? But how do I get my team to rally behind? So it's core values, it's purpose, it's saying we are doing the best work in the country. And if you want to be part of something really big, come work here, right?
Good, good. Well, I'm going to also sort of go back to a trigger you said about your mentor. I forget his name, but
Mhm. Yeah.
you said he was a little reticent at first, some 20 years ago, to get involved with CAD and everything. So, my question is going to be about technology today within your industry, but also within the context of craft. Because I think any of us who appreciate the fact that we are making something by hand, which inevitably is a longer process and a more individualized process, has been torn asunder, so to speak, by AI and the current technology and competition and everything. How do you still live in a world of craft, but keep forward with all the new AI technology that I'm sure is part of your manufacturing process?
It's a great question. So we have certain equipment here in this massive factory that is automated, right? So we automate cutting. So you take a piece of plywood, which is not, 80% of a cabinet, and cutting those parts is now done by machine, right? So it's called a CNC machine. And
Sure.
we've had one for 20 years, and now we have three of them, and they're cutting parts all day. And I posted a video on my social the other day, and I got some blowback from a guy, a cabinet maker, and he says, "Oh, that really goes against your term handcrafted." I said, "Well, hey, hold on, my friend. It's like we still have a team of 15 highly skilled cabinet makers that have to do a lot of work after those parts. Whether I cut those parts on a table saw or on a CNC, it's really the same aspect, right? That cabinet still is made by hands, right? All it's doing is precision cutting those parts so that when those parts come to the cabinet maker, that cabinet is true, square, not racking, right? So you need to start with a good foundation. It's like building the foundation of a home. That foundation has to be perfectly square, right? To build up,
Right, right.
right? So it's the same thing with the carcass of a cabinet.
Thank you for saying the word foundation in this
Yeah.
context. Thank you.
Yeah.
The tools of our trade, they've increased both speed as well as the ability to do something in theory a little bit less expensive because we're always competing in that regard. But every time it's given an opportunity for the craftsperson to still imbue their aesthetic within the context of the current technology, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And so I embraced technology early because of my wife. She was in the software field, and I bought this program, Cabinet Vision, when I was in my dining room 27 years ago. And that's screen to machine technology. Now, I do have some concern about AI and what it's, we have a full-time software developer on staff, and he's using AI to try to reduce process time of
Sure.
some of our business. We are using rendering now through AI tools, right? So that rendering capability is being exponentially grown and cost is coming down. So I do see some concerns about, what does 2 or 3 years look like down the line from a creativeness? Like I'm almost thinking that there could be a blowback on from clients that I don't want something AI generated. I want something drawn for me, right? Like I could almost see like the pendulum swing back in a
Hmm.
couple of years when we get so much like we're already seeing video. We don't even know if it's real or not, right? It's like
Right.
I think people are going to have a little bit of overdose of AI, So it's like that's why I think that craftsmanship concept may not go away because people that want quality work, they're willing to pay for it. And that's what they're buying.
That is what they're buying. I think in the context of something aesthetically, the artifact that is produced, one of the greatest selling points, obviously, is, as I call it, the clothes on the mannequin. What does it look like? And when you've got a good photograph, when you have a good showroom that shows that, but how does a rendering scenario, much like what Photoshop did 20 years ago, still keep the idea that it is a customized thing? So you're not talking about the intellectual property of it being scraped by all these large language models as much as the sheen that it's produced, that somebody says, oh, I need it to look like it was drawn in magic markers like you did 40 years ago.
Well, here's what I'm seeing is that these rendering tools, they can create anything, right? The key is who can build it, right? So anybody can draw a pretty picture. Not everybody can make that picture into reality with the type of
Right.
handcraftmanship, right? So, like, you can draw a Bentley. There's not many people that can make a Bentley.
That's a good point. Thank
Right.
you.
So I'm a more nervous for the front end of our business. I think I know where you're going with creatives. Will there, what's the job? What does that market look like 5 years from now? But I think people, again, if you're a creative and you can utilize AI to your benefit to get what's in your head across to a client, they're more apt purchase what you're thinking, like it's so hard to create something and create it visually and then get the customer to understand. So I think we are using it in a way to get our client to be in congruence with what we're thinking it's going to look like.
Well, and all those techniques have evolved over the years. We're all waiting so that we don't look goofy with the AR and the VR headsets and everything. But
Yeah.
clearly, when you look at those, again, that's a next iteration of how you're presenting an elevation of something.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are definitely heavy on the next level of how do we bring tools into the business to make this business run better. But I'm not looking to eliminate jobs. I really am looking to scale the business effectively using that. To me, AI is a tool like a table saw. It
That's
it
right.
doesn't replace the person using the table saw.
Right. Very good. Good. Well, you use the word scale. Let's talk a little bit about that. How are you planning and continuing to scale as you want to grow?
So I am one of those people that I feel if I am not growing, I'm dying, right? So for me, and it's a blessing and a curse, right? So I'm almost never satisfied. And and my wife will tell you, it's hard because I'm constantly looking at the next thing. But my goal for growth in this facility, so when you build cabinets, imagine this, when you're building a lot of cabinets, they get bigger as you put them together. So space is a constraint.
Hmm.
So even at 75,000 square feet, we run out of space very quickly if we're not getting product through and out the
Right.
door.
Right.
So our avenue of growth may be an acquisition over the next year or two. So we're looking to potentially acquire another cabinet company that would give us opportunity, bring in some additional sales as well as additional capacity.
Is the private equity industry looking at
Uh,
similar niches like that, or would that be funded by you?
No, well, private equity calls me every day and says, "Hey, we want to buy a cabinet company. Well, why don't we buy you and then buy a couple others and you run them?" So I'm not looking at that yet, but
Right.
that might be a strategy to help fund this, right? So, hey, if they want to bring in 20% and I got to give up some ownership, but I can really grow my team and grow this brand, that is an opportunity. So I have a team of advisors. I have an advisory board that I've hired that they give me that kind of insight to say, hey, maybe we go to private equity. They are definitely in our market. What private equity has done, though, unfortunately, is a lot of bad private equity firms have destroyed some very old, good cabinet companies around the country. And I've talked to some of the owners and they're like, whatever you do, if you go to private equity, make sure it's the right company that's not going to destroy your legacy that you built over 27 years.
Well, inevitably, that's sort of the challenge, isn't it? When we worked with the roll up for Eldorado Stone, when it was original individual franchises that was then purchased by Headwater, or not, excuse me, Headwaters, Grand Partners, who's one of your neighbors on the East Coast there. The challenge was always sort of the I don't want to say mom and pop because that's a bad reference, but the hands-on being able to talk to people versus the larger companies that seem to be impersonal. So there's always that challenge of
Yes.
staying personal and yet growing, right?
Yes. And so what we've seen in our industry is that the cabinet business in at large is now two massive conglomerates. It's Cabinet Works and American Woodmark and yeah, Master Brand, and they own, I don't know, 80% of the cabinet share in the country. Here's the problem: is that it's homogenized the business. It's the same product under different names.
Cookie cutter, right?
It's cookie cutters, and I think the affluent buyer, even the buyer that maybe not as affluent, but wants a little bit better than what their neighbor has, they're
Right.
finding companies like us and saying, "Hey, we see the value in this. We know it's 20 or 30% more, 50% more, but we're going to be in this house for the next 30 years. We want to put the best in, right? And like, yeah, it's going to cost us more, but man, I saw what you did at my neighbors or at my cousins, and man, is that amazing. They come down every day from waking up and they say, I love this kitchen. I love this space. I love my bath.
That's great. That's great. Well, let's talk a little bit about trends from that standpoint. I mean, to a certain extent, if we're chasing trends, but inevitably in an aesthetic world, we have to sort of be respectful for what is happening now. Tell me about what Village is versus, let's say, mid-century modern is all the rage right now, whereas Italianate was 15 years ago. So tell me a
Sure.
little bit about stylistically about Village.
What's really helpful for us is that since we are working with some of the top designers on the East Coast, and we've worked with some really good designers on the West Coast, we're always being pushed kind of we're seeing what, because they're asking for product and design, door styles, colors that generally seem to be a year ahead, right? So
Hmm. They
the
always
best
want to be a year ahead. That's what a designer wants to do, right?
so like and I'll give you a for instance.
Okay.
Over the last 4 years, the most popular wood for most kitchens has been painted perimeter, some sort of white or khaki or, off white, and then a riff sawn white oak island. So it's a type of oak, it's white oak, and it's the way they saw it. So it's very straight grain. And so they wanted the island and maybe the hood as that accent, light, very light wood, kind of like an airy vibe to it. Once that color starts to make its way to the big box, which it has, it's now you see it at Lowe's, you see it at Depot. These designers are like, I'm done. Let's go to something else. So right, because as a trend gets pushed through, the big boxes, the big manufacturers finally see it, and because they're like turning the Titanic, right, to get product,
Oh, sure.
so they're always behind the curve. Once it hits there, and that's what we're seeing, that thin door style. They call it a slim shaker. It's been popular for 5 years. It's very popular on the West Coast. We're starting to see a shift back to a little bit more of a traditional kitchen here on the East Coast. People want inset cabinets. The doors fall within a frame. Warmer tones again. I think that we're seeing the home is getting warmer. So medium tone stains like walnut, richer oaks. Cherry is still not coming back. Cherry's been dead. It's dead. Still with the
Interesting.
painted colors, but the whites are shifting to more of a cream again. It's funny. We're seeing whites, definitely no grays, back to a cream or like a grayish color, like kind of like somewhere a cross between khaki and gray. And we're also seeing a lot of color. Like customers are not afraid to do a green kitchen or a blue kitchen
Oh,
or a red
wow.
kitchen. Right.
Okay.
So and quite honestly, when we're doing whole homes, the little girl's bath is pink, right? And the boy's bath is blue. I hate to
Sure.
fall into the stereotypes, but they know that that cabinet could be painted 5 or 7 years from now on site when the daughter's grown and now it's a guest bath. But they're doing those creative colors in different rooms, and it is fun. I got to be honest with you. We do a lot of purple. I mean, like crazy,
Hmm.
crazy stuff because with a painted finish, you could always have a painter come in and respray that.
Well, it's interesting you're saying paint versus a lot of stains and everything. And I guess that, again, that's cyclical. We understand that. You've probably seen in a lot of the interior design magazines, et cetera. So the designers who want to stay ahead, I mean, that's the very reason why my wife, the exterior designer who did the farmhouse look that was black windows and white painted brick,
When
now
she was
can't stand
doing
that
that,
because that's
yeah, she was
everywhere
doing
now.
that 10 years ago, probably, right?
She was,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it's funny. Black windows. A friend of mine just said, "Oh, I'm going to do black windows." I said, "No, don't do it." That was like 10 years ago. He's like, "Really?" I was like, "It's
Yeah.
amazing." I'm like, "No, no, no, man. That is past."
And the challenge with it is when you bring in something that you think is going to be fashion forward and nobody else is doing it, there's discomfort until it's seen elsewhere in the
Amen.
marketplace.
That's a really good point, David. And I'm sure with you guys in the design end, you got to lead that client along and say, "Trust me, I'm telling you, this is going to look amazing." Right.
Right.
There, back to the painted thing. Yes, we're still strong in the painted, but honestly, man, if I could put walnut in every, like, see, we're in the Allegheny Mountains here, within a
Right.
100 miles. So the
Yeah.
Alleghenies, as you know, through Pittsburgh, most of the hardwood in the country comes from New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, right? So all that lumber, you got these beautiful walnuts, cherries. Unfortunately, nobody's using it, and maple and white oak. And so I try to push people, hey, let's put some rich wood into this house, right?
Hmm. Hmm. And they want to see somebody else do it before they feel comfortable specking it,
Exactly.
right?
So again, that's why we take so much video and photography, so we can show clients, hey, here's one, here's another one. Go on our portfolio, and you tell me what you like.
Tell me what not only the financial aspect, but also the sustainability and the forest stewardship things are happening within the context of wood. What is your relationship with wood today that it wasn't 25 years ago?
Great question. So Penn State has one of the best forest stewardship programs in the country, because it's pretty much in the Alleghenies. We have more lumber in this country now than we had 150 years ago, and that's what people really don't understand. The practice,
Mature
it's
growth?
mature growth, right? Because
Okay.
they were forward thinking pretty much 40 or 50 years ago, know that, hey, we can't clear cut forests like they did when settlers started to come here.
Right.
Right. Like clear cut forest. No, you can't do that. Right. So, I mean, I think there's 7 trees for every one taken now. The demand is down because alternative materials have grown. So alternative materials might be laminate, melamine, flooring now is all kind of photoed, right? I mean,
Sure.
the technology out of Europe is unbelievable what can look like wood and it's not wood. So the demand on the wood side is actually way down. I was just at a national convention, and like the demand for solid raw lumber is down drastically.
That's a
So
surprise to hear.
yeah, because of all the alternative materials. I mean, on the West Coast, I know a lot of the exteriors of homes look like wood, but that's not really wood, right?
Oh, with all the composite materials and the ICMs and
Exactly,
yeah, it's
right?
hardy
So a lot
planks.
a lot of it's plastic hardy, right? I mean, it's fiber cement, right? So there is less of a demand on hardwood in this country, and that's concerning to the guys that are out there logging it, right? So they're concerned about jobs, right? So that is a myth that we are harvesting too much lumber in this country. That is not the case.
Well, I imagine you're telling all of your designers, spec more wood. We're up for it.
Wood, right? It's the number one renewable resource in the world is wood,
And
right?
they're doing a good job with that. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, especially in North America, South America as well has done very well with stewarding wood. I mean, you can no longer get Honduran mahogany. Unfortunately, it was the most beautiful wood in the world, I believe. It's embargoed, because they clear cut it, right? You can't clear cut forest, and Honduras is a small country, so when you start clear cutting, you're going to lose a species.
Right. Well, hopefully they're making some inroads to
They are,
bring that
they are.
back. Well, I want to be respectful for your time. As I said, we've gone over a little bit, but I appreciate our very energetic conversation.
Yeah, I hope it
And
was.
I'll leave with this. What should I have asked you that maybe you'd like to impart to the people watching this?
I think maybe on the business side, one of the things that I didn't really understand is that you can really be passionate about your craft, but being passionate and being able to make a living and keep other people fed and other families supported is really difficult, right? So
Right.
I don't think enough not gratitude, enough empathy is given to business owners in this country, especially small business owners that really are the backbone of our economy, right? 70% of the businesses are small businesses. And it is tough. It's a tough marketplace right now, regardless of your political standings. It's hard to make money, right? So, and you have to make money to keep all of these people employed and to keep doing good work. So that's what I spend a lot of my time on, trying to educate myself on how to be a better businessman, how to produce profit so we can continue to grow this business.
Thank you very much for that last insight of that three-legged stool, and those legs on those stools are made out of wood.
Yes.
So
Amen.
thank you, Joe.
The Foundation is produced by Studio Conover and edited by Brett Euler. Studio Conover is a strategic marketing design firm for manufacturers of building products. Visit studioconover.com for more information.